Thank you very much, Ms. Cutler and Mr. Willems, for your excellent and substantial report and presentation. In today's economic and security environment in Asia, the United States cannot be desired more to be involved in maintaining and strengthening rule-based free and open regime in the region. In this context, the proposal is quite relevant and valuable. Now we will move on to the questions and answers session. Let me start this session with the question from our chairman, Mr. Urata. Professor Urata asks the following question. Considering large and increasing bilateral trade between U.S. and China, in your view, what is desirable trade and economic relationship between U.S. and China?
Well, that's a broad question, and I could take the next 10 minutes trying to answer it. But let me make a couple quick points that I think are important. I mean, the first is, we don't see China and the U.S. both being parties to an agreement like this. I don't think that that is realistic at this moment in time. I think what we would hope to do is use this agreement to work with our partners and allies to create standards that can put pressure on China to engage in more market-oriented behavior. And that's how we see this operating. I do think the US and China need to continue to engage bilaterally and figure out some of their differences. I do think that we are in the United States likely to crack down on national security sensitive trade. But I hope that doesn't mean that we can't continue doing basis and in less secure, less sensitive areas, commodities trade and things like that. And I do think we could work together with Japan to pressure China to be more open in areas where we do want to continue to trade with them.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me look at the other questions. I'm still waiting for the questions from the floor and coordinating some questions. I would like to expand a little bit our discussion by looking at the stakeholders in US and in the international community. I think your recommendations are quite helpful to mitigate opposition and remove obstacles for US reentry to the TPP from the viewpoint of US political processes. To realize US's reentry to the TPP, I guess there needs to be some additional powerful engine to push this agenda. It could be something related to geopolitical concern in the region. It would be take not only economic and trade policy experts, but also security policy experts. You mentioned your working group involved some security experts, but more in general, how does this topic gather attention and interest from security people in the US, and how can their involvement be strengthened? This is a domestic one. And for international one, I'm interested in the responses from developing countries in Asia to your initiative. How were their initiatives from those countries, and are they willing to cooperate with the US in this direction? And question from floor mentioned the possible role of India in moving the CPTPP or the rejoining, US's rejoining to the TPP forward. How would you describe those stakeholders domestically and internationally?
Okay, so let me take a first crack at those questions. First, with respect to developing countries' reactions, I mean, to be quite frank, we have not had like detailed discussions with the developing country members of CPTPP, more like high-level discussions with them about our paper. But here's my view. Number one, IPEF participation has exceeded all expectations, and many countries in Southeast Asia and India, except for the trade pillar, have signed up for IPEF. And so I think that's a good sign and a signal that these countries very much want US economic engagement in the region. and they're willing and anxious to work and eager to work with the United States on the areas, most of the areas that we put forward in this initiative. So I think that's positive. Second, and I go back to kind of the IPAF versus CPTPP slide. In our view, in CPTPP, we'd be providing market access to developing countries. And at least based on my experience, for example, in TPP, negotiating with Vietnam, the carrot of market access was really the pathway for them agreeing to strengthen provisions on labor, on IPR, and other U.S. priorities. So I think that would change the dynamic and make developing countries, members of CPTPP, even more interested in the United States joining. And finally, to be honest, I think we would be relying on Japan to help us, given their close and extensive relations with Southeast Asia members, to to urge them to support our re-entry and to work with us and work with them almost as a bridge to help facilitate our re-entry with again some revisions that we'd be seeking. And finally, I would just say that with respect to the first question, at least my experience is it's the security-minded, foreign policy-minded folks in the United States, whether it be in the administration or in Congress, they're the strong supporters of U.S. re-entry or stepped-up economic engagement in the Indo-Pacific or re-entry into CPTPP. It's more the trade people who are, who have strong concerns based on their view that from an economic point of view, these trade agreements no longer, work in our interest. But I'm sure Clete has more to say on that. So over to him.
Look, in the interest of time, I think you answered the question well. I think most of the security folks that I talk to are strong proponents of TPP. They think it's necessary for the U.S. to counter China's growing economic influence, and that it's necessary for the U.S. To help diversify supply chains away from China. And so that really is the reason why they generally support this initiative.
Thank you. Time is running out, but there are a number of questions coming in, and some of them are touching upon the digital aspects of the agreement. What kind of elements to be included in the future agreement, such as revised TPP, or how we can touch on the issues related to EV, electric vehicle, in the agreement. Those are the questions. And on the other hand, there are questions related to environment issue and climate change. There are several of them, and also with regards to the digital issue, the impact of the semiconductor war on the future of the CPTPP or the revision of the TPP. If you have any comments on these issues, please.
I can try to make some quick comments and then turn it to Wendy. First, in terms of the UK joining the TPP, I think it helps. There is a lot of support in the United States for a trade agreement with the UK. And if they join the TPP, that's something that I intend to use as a reason for the US to join, having another partner and ally in that agreement. In terms of the semiconductor situation, I don't think that has a direct bearing. I actually think that helps us, because the more that there is tension with China and the interest in moving supply chains out of China, the more you need to have a trade agreement to achieve that. If we're going to cut off market access for our semiconductor companies into China, we need to give them alternatives. And the best alternative is for them to link their supply chains more closely with countries like Japan and other TPP members. I'll let Wendy jump in on some of the others. Oh, she just went off camera. I know Wendy has to run in a moment. Wendy, do you want to jump in before you have to leave?
Yeah, so just with respect, I'll just take on the digital question. I think there's a lot that we can pull from the US-Japan digital agreement. But again, I think that when folks find out more about what we're asking for in IPAF with respect to consumer protection, with respect to worker concerns and with respect to more kind of trade facilitation, digital provisions that will benefit small and medium-sized enterprises. Those type of provisions should be included in digital. And I would just conclude and say, while climate and environment, extremely important issues, the climate issue is a little still, let's just say there is some kind of partisan or different views between Republicans and Democrats here. So this is something that would need to be worked out, how the climate, particularly the climate agreement, could be, lifted, or enforcement aspects could be put into CPTPP, but that's something that would need, I think, for us, further domestic discussion. However, I don't think that would preclude us having a very strong environment chapter. I'm sorry, but with that, I'm going to need to say goodbye. Thank you very much. And I appreciate it inviting me for this important webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cutler, for taking time to join this seminar. She has another meeting right now, so she needs to leave. Thank you. Once again, thank you, Ms. Cutler and Mr. Willems. I appreciate their contribution to the trade policy discussion in Washington in the direction of more substantial U.S. engagement in Asia. Through today's seminar, I think we now better understand how stimulating their proposal is to provide a basis for serious policy discussion in U.S. and Asia. Once again, thank you, Mr. Willems, for your valuable
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed the conversation. I really look forward to working with you and hopefully trying to make this a reality. So thank you for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All the participants to join our seminar. With that, I conclude today's special seminar. Thank you.